Hello. So, today we are going to be reviewing Rome 1 Total War, the remaster. Because that is a interesting enough title, and as you can probably guess from the thumbnail, I don't necessarily have the most positive opinions for it, even though it's sort of a strange and somewhat difficult thing to talk about because all in all, it is a good remake in the sense of it does almost everything the same with very minor changes to the original Rome. But, like, the few changes are, like, say, adding a merchant class to the agents so that you can have merchants like Medieval 2, which is an okay addition and a decent overall map that actually shows you what the cities and stuff are and where the who owns what. I mean that was technically in the original, but it didn't have a thing signifying what kind of cities they are. Honestly, I've been wanting to talk about it for a while now, and I've just been putting it off. But you know what? No time like the present, right? Overall, it's an okay title, but it has its problems. And it is kind of what I can point to say, okay, this is how you don't necessarily remake a title because I didn't necessarily want to play a point for point remake of the original Rome because along with bringing everything good about Rome, it also brought all the things someone could have an issue with. Like a good thing to point to would be naval combat, because, well, Rome 1 didn't have naval combat like anything after Empire, so, you don't get to resolve conflicts in a way you want. So if you're carrying a large army somewhere and your ships have to fight a larger fleet and are more likely going to lose, you can't take control and at least try to win it. Now, granted, they've been phasing naval combat out as of late, anyways, but it's still something that is sorely missed and should not be in there. But, they don't like naval combat as much because reasons. And yes, I am aware there is a mod that makes naval combat possible, but one, that's only for battles, two, that's only for the DLC, and three, I'll be discussing that aspect a little more later. Also, playing this, you kind of get to see how empty the map is because they still have the big settlement things that they had in the Rome 1, like Greece only being separated into a few provinces, as well as, like, my main thing is the provinces are too big, yet the map feels empty because you only have 16 or so civs or factions to play with, and that kind of is lackluster compared to other titles which fill the map with factions, which I do kind of like in the newer titles. Granted, there's still something to having the rebel settlements, but it's also nice to have a bunch of factions to interact with, especially when usually with the other ones in Rome, they tend to eventually just hate you. While in the later titles, like, you can form an alliance and you can be reasonably confident they will stick with you to the end, assuming they aren't traitorous. Honestly, the game is somewhat hard to talk about because it does very little different from the original. And it is something where if you like the original Rome, then you might be able to justify getting it because it's an improvement in graphics, but because it doesn't offer any new civs or factions. Sorry, I'm so used to Age of Empires and calling them civs. But speaking of Age of Empires, like, that is kind of the standard that I was kind of expecting the Rome remaster to hit, because new factions, new maps, and various other things with both the 2 and 3. I haven't played much with 1, so I have not a lot of knowledge, but both not Rome, Age of Empires 2 and 3's remasters were kind of what I was expecting out of Total War. New factions to play with, new units at least, so that, you're not playing the same game and stuff, and a company that's at least going to look after the game. But, CA, whenever they release a new title, they tend to leave the old one behind and don't give too much mind to it. The only exception I can think of is that period of time after Warhammer, where they were giving DLCs to Rome 2, because I don't know why, but they were. And granted, they were okay DLCs, but not what I would necessarily recommend a game, especially with the game that most people seem hostile to. Personally, I enjoy Rome 2, but it is not a necessarily good game, because it has its flaws, like any game does. It's just the flaws are a little more pronounced. And the problems that Rome 1's remaster has will come to bite a Medieval 2 remaster in the ass if they ever decide they want to go for that. Because, like, another thing that I don't think many people bring up is that, like, at least with the base Rome, it's lucky that it doesn't have a sort of replacement. Like, say, like, while I enjoy Rome 2, I wouldn't call it a replacement for Rome 1. That cannot, however, be said for its DLC, the Barbarian Invasion, which I am sorry to anyone who likes it, but I can't muster a very good reason why I would play Barbarian Invasion over Attila, which does everything Barbarian Invasion tried to do and does it better. And Attila is a interesting game because it also has a mod in it called Medieval Kingdoms 1212, which, coincidentally enough, also does everything Medieval 2 does and does it better. Now, I don't want to say mods are why you play a game, because they're certainly not. I mean, I know some people think that because the modding scene is decent on Rome remaster, that it's a decent title, but I hate to break it to people, but mods do not make a good game. If your game needs mods to be good, then it is not a good game. I'm sorry, but CA is not Bethesda. They do not get that excuse, and I barely care when Bethesda does it. Your base game should be good enough to justify installing the mods. It shouldn't need the mods to be playable. I am so sick and tired of these companies giving half-ass effort into a game because they expect that the modders are going to pick up the slack. And granted, they will, but Paradox, for instance, like, Hearts of Iron 4 has great mods. However, Hearts of Iron 4 can also stand on its own 2 feet. The original Rome and the original Medieval you could play without any mods. But if you're going to assume that I'm going to get a game just because it has good mods, you're sorely mistaken. Because at that point, I'm not buying your game for your game. I'm buying your game for someone else's work. But yeah, if Medieval 2 does not come out with anything different or anything at all, except expecting mods, well then I can already get the Medieval 2 experience with Attila's one mod. Yes, I know I'm arguing the idea of mods fixing a game with a mod in another game, but Attila on its own is a good game. I don't know many people who would argue that. And I have actually tried to go back and play Medieval, and it's just kind of difficult when I have something that does it better. More historical accuracy, which, to be fair, isn't the most important thing, but it's still a nice thing to have. More factions to mess around with. And it's not like it's that difficult to fix this sort of issue. Just add more factions. That's all you have to do. Like with Rome, you could have easily added an Ilia faction in between Rome and Macedon to have something else there. You could have had an India faction if you expanded the map. And also, you could have added more factions. I mean, not factions, settlements. Like, you did not have to make this a point-for-point remake. You could have just added on to the original and made it more enhanced. That's what Age of Empires did. I don't know why this couldn't have happened here. But, yeah, those are my main gripes with the Rome 1 remastered. Honestly, it's an okay game. But it's not what I would call a good remaster of the original. Because it brings the same problems with the original. Honestly, when I play a remaster of the game, I don't want the old problems the game had to come with it. I don't know about you, but I don't like old problems be brought into new games. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. I have social media links in the description if you want to follow me or whatever. I also will be streaming Age of Empires 4 or whatever else I want to on the Twitter. Not Twitter, the Twitch. I do have a Twitter, but that's not necessarily where I'm going to stream stuff. I don't think you can stream games on Twitter. But anyways, I hope y'all have a lovely evening and don't do anything too stupid or whatever.